and now we're hearing the investigation has headed down to Atlantic City, New Jersey. And this is something we first heard rumblings about here in the newsroom from our own Curtis Sliwa, as he investigated a series of murders of sex workers who were strangled and their bodies stashed near a motel in Atlantic City back around 2006 or 2007. And the murders on Gilgo Beach that suspect Rex Heuermann has been charged with occurred around the same time. Investigators are now looking for evidence at Massapequa Park, at a storage unit in Amityville, at a timeshare in Las Vegas, and down in AC, as well as in South Carolina, where the 59-year-old Heuermann's old pickup truck was seized earlier this week. And yesterday, the suspect's wife of several decades filed for divorce.
Yeah, she was like Sergeant Schultz. She knew nothing. I saw nothing. I know nothing. The woman, trust me, the wife knew. 300 guns in the basement of their Munster-style home, 1313 Mockingbird Place, in the middle of an upper-middle-class series of homes where if you had one shingle off your house, if you had one side of aluminum siding off your house, they go to the local town meeting and just want to burn you at the stake for lowering their property values. And apparently no complaints. This guy was an untouchable architect, Rex. Now we hear the latest today that he may have actually killed all four of the prostitute victims that he laid out in burlap bags in Gilgo Beach. He may have actually killed them in the basement of that garish home that he had and then transported the bodies out to Gilgo Beach. And the wife didn't know anything, right? You buy that, don't you, Justin? The wife didn't know nothing. She's like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. Nassau County police, they knew nothing. Right? The officials there, they knew nothing. All they do is cast aspersions against Curtis Sliwa. It's not even me who's reporting all of this. I'm just the messenger of what is the message. You don't like the fact that I give commentary and editorialize? Tough noogies. Now, can you imagine if he actually killed those four young ladies, who all of whom had families, all of whom were loved, were dumped in burlap bags along Gilgo Beach? Can you imagine if he had done that in the basement of his home there in Massapequa Park? Now we're hearing the neighbors were saying, oh, yeah, he'd be constantly in the backyard. He'd be burning items. He'd be cutting up items. Gee whiz, were there any reports about this filed with the county or the police? How the hell did he get 300 guns? Legally. He had permits. And yet I'm the bad guy. But anyway, let's continue on with the story, because I told you a week ago, right there with Sid Rosenberg in the morning, that I had been ranting about the connection with the killing of the prostitutes in Atlantic City back in 2006, that there were similar scenarios involving this monster, architect Rex, who's been arrested for 3, but it might as well be 4 of the killings. And there's so many more unsolved killings out there. So for any of you that just want to pin this all on this one architect Rex, forget about it. Don't just think you're going to pin everything on him and then close the books. There is no doubt other killers out there who have been able to avoid the long arm of the law. But let's get here to Atlantic City. So it's 2006. We're patrolling Atlantic City, the Guardian Angels, and I get a call from somebody now living in Jersey who originally I knew from, you got it, Lou, Canarsie. One of the victims was Kimberly Raffo. Kimberly Raffo, in fact, was the first victim, apparently according to the autopsy, who was killed, who was laid in that ditch with the 3 others. She was a former waitress from Canarsie, Brooklyn. She left her husband and her children for a life of drugs and prostitution in Atlantic City. Many of you have visited Atlantic City. You've seen these women selling their bodies out in the streets that lead to the casinos. My God, they're like half in the grave. Crackheads, meth heads, strung out on heroin, diseased. They're on the last leg. Nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about them. Kim Raffo was last seen alive on the day before the bodies were discovered. She had been strangled to death with a rope or a cord. And she was just one of three others. It was Molly Dilts, who is from Blacklick, Pennsylvania, herself. Serious drug problem. From Delaware, Tracy Ann Roberts, who wanted her mother to pick her up the day before. Her mother sped down to Atlantic City to pick her up, and she was nowhere around in her normal haunts. And then there was Barbara Breedor. This one is really difficult to understand. She came from a wealthy family near the Jersey Shore. She worked at the Tropicana, developed a serious drug issue, as all of them had, mostly with crack. And she was the fourth victim. All of these women were put in the ditch, face down, with their shoes and their socks taken, and all of them aimed in the direction where the moon would be seen at night. And this was right in the back of the Golden Key Hotel. I mean, it was a slimy dive, $15 a room. It was like 100 feet from the drainage ditch where the four young ladies were placed after they were strangled to death. Right along the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, a miserable location. I remember we kicked in a few doors at that no-tell motel, and the guys inside were like the worst. At that point, I figured, maybe it was one of these guys. I mean, these guys were really bad, degenerates. But that case was never solved, even though they had a few suspects. By the way, can I say, Lou, or am I going to have people marching in here accusing me of being anti-cop? Is it all right for me to say, Justin, that the police of Atlantic City are corrupt and the politicians are corrupt? How many mayors have gone to jail there in Atlantic City? I make my case. So if I indicate that they're corrupt down there, there's a history of corruption there. So I don't want anybody marching in here in defense of the Atlantic City police and the elected officials in Atlantic City. One of the most corrupt places in the world. But I said then, there's a connection here. And I remember I was invited out to a conservative dinner in Suffolk County. I was being honored, believe it or not, even though I told Edward Walsh, who was the Conservative Party chairman in Suffolk County, that I'm not a conservative. I'm not pro-life. I wasn't Second Amendment. I believe in gun control. Obviously, pro-choice. He said, no, it's not for politics. It's for all your work as a guardian angel. I said, okay. I remember going out there and talking to a lot of the members of the Conservative Party and their friends who were at their dinner. And I was asking questions because many of them worked in the sheriff's department and corrections in the Suffolk County lockup. And I said, guys, there's a correlation here. And I remember they told me, no, there's no connection whatsoever, Curtis. You're out on a limb. That's New Jersey and this is Suffolk County. Totally different cases. I said, I'm telling you, there are similarities here. Edward Walsh, the Conservative Party chairman who worked in the lockup. By the way, he never went to work. He got paid for never working in the Suffolk County jail. He said, Curtis, there's no connection. Do you know what happened to Ed Walsh soon after, Lou? He went to jail. Like almost everybody out in Suffolk County. One of the most corrupt places in existence. And I don't want to hear, it's corruption after corruption. You had the police commissioner who was corrupt. You had the police chief who went to jail. You had the DA Spoda who went to jail. You had his integrity chief and ADA, McPartland. He went to jail. And then you had Edward Walsh, who was the Conservative Party chairman who went to jail. I mean, we could actually have less to count, Lou, if we start counting all the people who didn't go to jail. So there definitely is a connection. And I believe when all is said and done, when they continue to clear out the basement of this monster, Architect Rex, who might well have killed all four of the victims found in Gilgo Beach in burlap bags, in his basement, in Massapequa Park, in his basement. Is the Nassau County Police Department going to take umbrage to that? I'm not saying it. It's being reported all over the news. That means members of your department are leaking it out. I'm the messenger here. You don't like the sound of the message? Don't try to kill or besmirch or tread all over the messenger me. But I will tell you, I'm continuing to dig. I've gotten on board here, Justin, although he didn't send me the audio, did he? I've brought on board here because he spends half his life in Atlantic City, Frank Morano, right, who shoots craps at the Borgata, and, he's like constantly Atlantic City. I've deputized him to assist me in going back and putting all the pieces together. And now all of a sudden, I can't reach him, right? Justin, you try to reach him, he's not. They don't want to have anything to do with Curtis Sliwa. The over-under point spread is that by the time I finish unearthing all the dirt involved in this, all of the actual cover-up involved in these killings, there's going to be a line of people wanting to kill me. But as I've told all of them, and I know some of you are listening right now, imagine you're at the bakery. It's a Sunday. You're lining up for your Napoleons, your strudel, your cannolis, and you have to take a ticket. Just get online because I'm not going to stop.